Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Roger Sherman, pitmaster and owner of the District Pit Barbecue Catering in Washington, D.C., coming to you again from the Retro Kitchen in the O Street Mansion. Now, I've got a very interesting guest for you today. Priyaki Zimmerman is the president and CEO of Cyberninjaz, a DC-based digital learning experience that teaches programming, videography, web design, music, fitness, and a whole host of other skills to DC metro area youth. Piankhi also moonlights as a mixed martial arts fighter who just made his promotional debut in Bellator, a major mixed martial arts promotion. Piankhi, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You are the owner of a digital-based learning experience, and you're also a mixed martial arts fighter. Those are two very different things. We'll jump into the Cyberninja portion of it, and then we'll work our way to fighting. So tell me about your business.
Okay, so Cyberninjaz Global Inc. is a nonprofit that I started some years ago. It actually started off as a for-profit business at first. We had an LLC, and then we were just kind of doing our thing, teaching kids, all the things you mentioned, programming, web design, fitness, and whatnot. And eventually we realized we're trying to affect certain groups that underrepresented children who don't have the access, who don't have the finances, the resources to learn and tackle some of these skills. So we turned to a nonprofit because each year we were already kind of raising money for scholarships for students anyway. So we turned to a nonprofit. So now we're actually teaching digital, virtual class.
So real quick on that, before you go on, I'm assuming with Cyberninjaz, you guys were doing stuff obviously initially always in person.
Yes.
And then so let's speak to that. So we are in the midst of a global pandemic, and you had mentioned that you had to pivot. So speak to that now, going out of the classroom and into a digital learning space. How did you make the pivot to make Cyberninjaz work during a global pandemic?
It was very difficult for everything we were doing, in person, and we had kids, in groups like normal. We start off as a summer camp, and then we also do private tutoring. So it was always face to face, which really strengthened our curriculum and our experience. However, with the pandemic, we had to switch to basically, Zoom calls. Actually, we're using Teams right now. Okay. So we use different platforms to get, directly to the kids, in their own homes. It's a little bit of a challenge, but it's basically what everyone has to deal with right now. So we're kind of just, bringing together our resources. We have a ton of really great volunteers who are helping us out, teaching different classes, it's just kind of finding other ways to reach out and pull resources in.
So with that, do you feel like the quality of education that you are providing to the students is the same now as it was pre-pandemic?
I think the quality is the same. I think the time is limited because it's easy to teach face-to-face and communicate. It's much more different to do it over Zoom with several people looking at the screen. And it's more difficult also because students are already on their screens, with regular school. So now you're giving them another after-school program, and they have to be on the computer screens for some more time. So we have to make sure the time is a little bit shortened, but we still have we have amazing instructors. I have an amazing staff, and the kids have a good time learning these things. They want to learn these things, and they're really into it, and we make it fun for them. So we just have to make sure that our time is not going over.
Sure. What do you teach specifically? What is your expertise that you pass on to kids?
My expertise is video production.
Okay.
I really like to make, teach the kids how to make cool movies. We go into video editing, special effects, story writing, directing, even being a camera person, just knowing the different terms that are in videography. I also used to work with, I do work with several actual YouTube channel groups. Sort of Waves being one of them. We did a lot of martial arts comedies and stuff like that. So I have experience with that, and also I've had experience in Hollywood briefly. So I was actually an extra in Black Panther.
Okay.
So rest in peace to Chadwick Boseman.
Sure.
But yeah, so I've actually had experience in Los Angeles, out in Georgia, just doing different things there. And I went to school for multimedia, so I learned a lot of these different skills that Cyberninjaz is actually teaching them. So I'm just really glad that I'm able to, create a group that can help enrich, underrepresented youth.
So you spend a lot of time instructing kids in digital arts. You also spend a lot of time mangling other human beings. You are a mixed martial arts fighter. You've got a fight underneath your belt in one of the major organizations in the world, Bellator. How do you square those two things, knowing that maybe from 8 o'clock until noon or whatever times you might be teaching kids, and then you got to throw on some gloves and crack somebody's skull? How do you square those two things?
And it's just like everybody's got different parts to them, and there's the yin and the yang to me. And so I guess one of my parts is I love working with children and teaching. I'm a natural teacher. I love to instruct people with things. Even with the martial arts world, I love to teach people.
Okay.
And then there's the more, I won't say bloodthirsty, but it's a different side of me. It's a different persona. It's like you got the moon that looks beautiful, and then you got like the full moon where it's like it's piercing.
Yes.
Glaring at you. So when I'm in the cage, all my martial pieces kind of come together, and everything else kind of like falls away.
Okay.
And so that's like a lot of times when people see me in person, they're like, oh, Piankhi's like a really nice guy. He's really cool, really chill. And then they find out that I'm a fighter, and they're like, wait, what? You do what? And then they see me in video, and they're like, who is that? That's not the same guy. And a lot of people don't realize, like, fighters are, they're people like anybody else, and we're not all meatheads. Sure. There's a lot of us who are, businessmen like myself, doctors, even teachers like myself. A lot of fighters fight because they love mixed martial arts, and not simply because they just want to go and hurt people, but they love the sport of it. They love the challenge, the personal goals that you can, reach and surpass your limits. It's, for me, I've always loved martial arts. It's something I wanted to practice. To me, I think it's a beautiful art form. It is violent, but it in itself is a beautiful art form, and it's a science of interaction between two people. So I don't just look at it as like, I'm beating someone up. I look at it as like, I'm expressing my art form in my most purest way.
You're a professional athlete. There was a period of time earlier this year, obviously, where all professional sports went away. I'm sure you probably had some fights booked. How did the pandemic not only affect your fight, your fighting purses, your actual scheduled fights? How did it affect your training, and how were you able to navigate that minefield?
So I had a fight scheduled for King of the Cage the week before everything shut down. So my training camp was completely finished. I was in tip-top shape. I was really excited. I had studied, my opponent. I had studied my skills. I'd been at the top of my game, and we got word saying that they were going to try to keep the fight going, even though lots of different organizations around the country were shutting down. And the very next day, we got another email saying, actually, we're not going to push this to the summer.
Okay.
A month into that, we got another email. We might want to push this a month later. And then the closer we got to that date, it was more like, okay, look, we want to have this event, but just wait for further. Sure. Everything was, things were getting worse and not better. So in that time, it was really difficult to get your training in, because we had to be very, very apart from everybody, so we couldn't really do certain aspects of our training, or if we did, we had to do it with small groups, and that will only be able to stay with those small groups, which in essence still limits your training, because you're basically just drilling certain things and doing repetition, which is good. But one of the good things about MMA is you work with diversity of fighters, right? So you get different types of moves, different types of body types and skills. So it kind of limited a lot of that. So you have to work basically just like yourself. Okay. And that's like the biggest challenge is self-discipline, self-improvement, when nobody else is looking. that was one thing that I had to basically struggle with, is like, I'm ready to do my thing, but now I have to basically do it by myself in isolation, you know, and it kind of kills your motivation, but it really challenges you to bring out the best of yourself when nobody's looking.
What is the most difficult aspect of teaching at Cyberninjaz, and then juxtapose that to the most difficult aspect of either MMA training or MMA fighting?
The most difficult aspect of teaching children is knowing that there's a lot going on that you can't control, and you have to focus it to learn, right? When you're in the cage, the most important thing is me and how I handle what's out there. Because regardless of what my opponent does, I still have to be on point for what I'm doing, right? And it basically, it doesn't matter what my opponent is, it's more a matter of how I'm approaching the situation. I think when you work with kids, you're gonna work with more than one child most of the time. So you're working with a lot of different energies and, you know, interests, and so you have to get them all focused, you know, on what you're doing. And that can be difficult, but once you get everyone on track, it's like super rewarding, right? That not just affects the one child's perspective and get them to learn, it can affect multiple children, get them to all be on board, create something they can all be proud of. And so that's like, you know, it's just two different things. On the one hand, it's much more of a personal satisfaction for me. And on the other hand, it's a satisfaction because I know I'm helping the community.
Okay. What's the more difficult task, teaching or fighting?
Working with kids.
Okay, I would agree with that. I've got 2 children. I get that. There's no question about that. So tell people how they can find out about Cyberninjaz.
So you can find out about us on our website, www.cyberninjaz.com. So it's Cyberninjaz with a Z at the end. And you can also find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Right now, as we're doing an after-school program. Actually, we're in like our second phase, and so we're teaching physics, web design, 3D modeling, and a couple other things. So yeah, just come check us out, and if you have anybody's interested, please come and join us.
So I'll get you out of here on this last question. Again, we've harped on this a little bit. You're a professional athlete. What is the best fitness tip that you could give for somebody who's not a professional athlete?
Start small, stay consistent. Every day, find a challenge, find something that you can do and work with, and then the next day, push it a little bit harder. And then the next day, push it a little bit harder. But just keep it consistent. You can do anything from basic calisthenics, any kind of basic kind of stuff you should do, but don't try to kill yourself when you're exercising. Take your time. And that's the way the best results come in. People take their time and record their progress.
My quick piece of advice, and I've utilized this for a long time, and this has kind of helped me make it through the holiday seasons. When you put together your holiday plate, you are only allowed 1 serving of anything that you can smash with your fork. If you cannot smash it with your fork, you can eat more of it, but if you can smash it with your fork, you only get 1 serving. So if you get a piece of turkey or a piece of ham and try to smash that with your fork, you cannot. That's protein. You're good to go. If you've got mashed potatoes and you've got mac and cheese and you've got stuffing, you can smash that with your fork. You only get 1 serving. Not 1 of each, 1 serving. And if you can do that, I can promise you, you'll gain less weight. So I'm basically telling you folks, as a barbecue chef, don't eat the sides. It's that simple. Just don't eat the sides. Eat the barbecue, don't eat the sides. Pianhki, I want to say thank you for coming on the show today. You know, I think that Cyberninjaz is a great organization, and you know, seeing you out there doing that is special to me. I've actually watched you fight mixed martial arts. I've been lucky enough as the owner of a district pit to sponsor you for a fight, and I appreciate you allowing us to do that because we're not doing anything for you. You're doing more for us than we're doing for you, and I appreciate that. So thanks again for being on the show. And one more time, tell people how they can find you at Cyberninjaz.
You can find us online at www.cyberninjaz.com. CYBERNINJAZ.com.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Good talking to you. See you next time.